Hey, I go into a lot, and I mean a lot of RWBY spoilers here, so if you'd rather experience it for yourself first, which I do highly recommend, please do that now. If you're already caught up, then please enjoy the video. I think it's safe to say that most people have a love-hate relationship with the Rooster Teeth web show RWBY, but I'm not here to argue about the quality of the show itself. There are good points, there are bad points, let's leave it at that, shall we? I'm here to talk about one of the aspects of RWBY that is undeniably amazing. The music.
My eyes are open wide, I'm racing to her side. There's nothing that I won't do for her. But this is not a dream, my mind repeats the scene. I can't forget it and it's torture. That was before, but not anymore. I've left it behind. As much as I lost, once I was lost, I found the strength to grow. So much more, I whisper to a roar. No more crying, it's time for me to soar. Feel like I'm finally unbroken. Feel like I'm back from the dead. My strength back and confidence growing. I wake 'cause I'm armed.
Although I love RWBY personally, I understand when people think the opposite. It's certainly not a series for everyone and has a multitude of problems, but I think one thing that everyone should do before shooting it down is listen to at least one song. I rarely try and convince people to watch RWBY, but I will always get them to listen to a song or two, because Jeff Williams and Alex Abraham work wonders and make RWBY better than it ever could have been without them. I want to shed some light on what I think makes their music so effective and maybe convince you to give it a try. I was talking to a friend the other day, and we agreed that good characters in games and shows always have a musical theme attached to their name. The proper term for this is leitmotif. A motif is a musical phrase, and a leitmotif is a musical phrase attached to a specific person, place, or other such thing. Think the Imperial March and its link to the Empire in Star Wars. The example we discussed was Gwyn's theme, Gwyn, Lord of Cinder in Dark Souls, and how it suddenly reappears in Dark Souls 3 and Soul of Cinder, immediately sparking fear for those who know what they're listening to. That's a great way to use motifs, is to hide them in plain sight and make callbacks to things when you see them again. It's such an effective use. The themes in RWBY started way back when the initial trailers were released 8 years ago. 4 main trailers were released for the individual members of Team RWBY, and each one uses a unique song and motifs that will carry on throughout the entire show. As an example, Red Like Roses is RWBY's theme, and is used multiple times in a multitude of ways, but my personal favourite is in Silver Eyes from Volume 6.
Let's start with what you do know. Tell me.
Silver-eyed people are supposed to be legendary warriors. Or something.
It takes on a slower, more poetic feel in a scene where RWBY is learning about herself and her unique abilities, and it's just beautiful.
I want you to think of all the times you've triggered your powers. What did those moments have in common?
I wanted to protect my friends.
Precisely.
In contrast, it is used entirely differently in Volume 4's Chapter 7, Punished Part 3. Catchy title for a song, I know.
Don't come closer!
Fine!
Becomes much faster and tense as she races to protect her uncle. The key thing to note here is that in both examples, the song isn't entirely a reuse of Red Like Roses. In fact, in Punished, it is used for about 12 seconds in a 2.5-minute song. The use of leitmotifs is complementing what is happening on screen and ties in with brand new music rather than being a complete rip. Each character's motif fluctuates whenever it is shown to match whatever is happening in the scene, and these subtle, or sometimes really obvious changes are what gives the music that fresh breath of life. Just copy-pasting a theme into a new piece of music would get boring or annoying after you hear it enough, but this constant shifting is what stops that staleness from setting in. RWBY is a show that needs a lot of badass music to fit its amazing battles, and it doesn't disappoint. Then You Trained Us, One Thing, and Crow vs. Winter are just 3 examples of amazing fight songs, but there are dozens. But battles aren't the only thing in RWBY. There are also a number of moving moments that need equally somber themes. What I want to focus on here is how Jeff Williams uses silence to evoke emotion. While I do believe music can improve most scenes, sometimes the lack of it can do even more. This ties in with a common idea in music theory, which is you can't get louder without starting quiet. Basically, this means if you want your crescendo to be impactful, you can't just go loud from the get-go or no one will notice. The idea is the same with using silence. If you have music in every single scene, filling every gap, it will lose all of its impact. Sometimes the lack of sound can make all the difference. I'm going to use 2 very spoiler-heavy examples here, so be warned. In Volume 7, Episode 12, there is a spiral of events that leads to Crow, Best Dad, Clover, Military Top Dog, and Tyrion, Joker Wannabe, fighting in the tundra outside Atlas in a tense scene. The music here, Free Ride in a Show, is just as thrilling and amazing as the scene itself, all the way up to the conclusion where Crow lands this final hit, disabling Clover's aura. Quick aside for those who don't know, aura is an in-universe plot armor that stops most fatal blows but has limited use, like a health bar in a game. Particle effect is basically a giant sign saying, "Fuck you, I'm killable now." The music takes a quieter, almost regretful twist as they ache over the situation that they've somehow landed themselves in, but that all changes when Tyrion steals Crow's weapon and uses it to stab Clover in the back. The music stops abruptly and completely. The music comes back once Tyrion throws the Harbinger down on the ground, but is low and bassy, symbolizing Crow's anger at his hated rival. But as soon as he turns back to see his friend, or more if you believe the theories, the music drops it and replaces it with a haunting, mournful melody. At the end of every episode in RWBY, there was a show of concept art and a piece of music. I honestly love these parts, sometimes they're better than the episode itself, but just this once, for the first 10 seconds there is no music, just the sound of the open tundra. RWBY rarely has major character deaths, not that Clover was even that important, but this use of silence as an instrument just added more weight than any song ever could. I think this choice was absolutely incredible and really just speaks for itself. There is one more use of silence I want to bring your attention to. In Volume 8, Episode 13, Cinder, a villain with fire powers that can fly like Iron Man, is fighting Team RWBY in a pocket dimension filled with portals while civilians from a floating city escape to a desert with skeletoscorpions and a girl that can also fly like Iron Man who was once a robot but is now not a robot because of a sexy non-Robin Williams genie comes to terms with her and her friend's mortality after seeing her robot self have a fit on the floor as the aforementioned floating city tumbles in the sky into a crater populated by animal people. I know this is a joke I purposefully added, but just saying all this makes me question the show and my sanity. Anyhow, this is a perilous fight, not just because of the enemy, but also the fall into the void that is always meters away from anyone. As the fight continues, Neo, a character hell-bent on killing RWBY, goes for the kill, but Yang pushes her out of the way just in time. Her aura depletes, she crashes over the edge. Blake tries to save her, but it's too late. Let's quickly go back and listen to the music in this scene. There's a dramatic build-up from when Neo reveals herself, but as soon as Yang gets slashed, it stops immediately. We hear her hit the platform and a heartbeat as Blake tries to save her, but it all goes silent when the gamble shroud misses. Now, this silent is moving enough on its own, but what makes it stand out is the pure scream of desperation which brings with it an entire dramatic orchestra. This links back to what I was saying earlier. That silence while Yang fell greatly enhanced the moment, but also made the piercing cry that followed even greater in emotional meaning. You can't have loud without quiet. And in turn, you can't have a loud, sudden burst of noise without first being silent. There are so many small moments that I want to mention, so let's do a quick fire round showing small details that cannot be ignored. First, the song Raviata Osa Moneta plays during the finale of Volume 6 and is a blink and you'll miss it moment, but when RWBY says that's all that matters, there is a bar of music from the song All That Matters. I mentioned the use of leitmotifs back at the start, but my favourite use of combining these into a song is in Crow vs. Winter. I'm sure you can guess which 2 characters' themes are mashed together in this great fight. The reason it stands out is because whoever seems to have the upper hand in the fight also takes control of the music, so to speak, and when they seem equally opposed, the song takes on its own unique ideas as well. RWBY vs. Funky is interesting because Flint Cole uses a trumpet as a weapon, and of course this is incorporated into the song amazingly.
All that money can't buy you skill.
It also pulls from Weiss's and Yang's theme with new jazzy vibes, and I just adore it. Boop is a song dedicated to Nora. Can't say that without laughing. Boop is a song dedicated to Nora Valkyrie, and it has the same manic energy as her. It also provides an explanation as to why Nora says boop to Ren, which, as far as I'm aware, is not truly explained in the main series. And as my final one, Forever Fall is probably the most heart-wrenching song on any of the soundtracks, and the reason it stands out to me is because it pulls from the character Pyrrha Nikos and her themes all the way back from the first volume. This song, or at least a song using Pyrrha's motifs, could have happened at any point, but the fact they decided to wait 6 volumes where it would hurt them most just goes to show how much they care about getting the most use out of their songs. I am not blind to RWBY's problems, but that doesn't stop it from being one of the coolest shows I've seen with some of the most moving moments, and that's purely because of the music, and I hope I've been able to convince you to give it a listen. Even if you don't watch the show, the music is on Spotify and YouTube, and is well worth your time. Well, at least I believe so. Hey, so this is my first video essay, and I'm quite proud of how it came out. I know RWBY isn't the most popular thing, and the majority of people probably hate me for even talking about it, but I thought it was interesting enough. I hope to post more things in the future, be it essays, music videos, or short films, so I hope you stick around for that. And if you do want to check out my only other video, that being a Suicide Romantics music video, please do, it would really mean a lot. I hope to see you again soon.
So, how do I laser beam monsters with my eyeballs?